To the front! We have another wave of orcs coming! Huh? It seems we're receiving a Vox communication. Private Jenkins? Oh, we're receiving Space Marine support? Oh, thank the Emperor. Which chapter do they hail from? You don't know? Well, what colors are they? Blue and white? Oh, Ultramarines First Company. No? Well, what symbol do they have? It's red. Is it a mouth? Show me that footage right now, guardsmen! By the throne! That's the World Eaters! I need to make an emergency Vox communication. This is what happens when you hug the wrong Space Marine. Just because they have bunny ears does not make them friends. Don't be this, guardsman. Learn how to identify on the battlefield, and it might just save your life. Who am I kidding? It probably won't. But let's make those chances from 1% to 1.5%. In this administratum approved tutorial, I will teach my guardsmen how to properly identify the ancient heraldry of the World Eater's Land Raider Proteus. I bet 30 credits you win to hug the World Eater. Oh, guardsmen! Have you watched the video yet? No? Well, let's get started. Step 1. Prime it white. I used Corax white and I do not recommend it. It did not give a very even coat, and then when I painted the little guy on top, it was very chunky and painful to get rid of the excess paint. So now you're going to want to just grab a pencil, and we want to make the lines in the sections that we want to be in blue. So we're going to go ahead and grab that front part of the tank where it's kind of like a triangle, and we're just going to go with that natural line going down. I did the exact same thing on the top. Now in the back, there's kind of like this little smaller section, and we're just going to continue that line going all the way from the bottom and going to the top. Now where that area is coming out, where the armor plates kind of meet like this, we just want to have to be a straight line across going this way. Then we're going to continue the angle going up towards the tracks. Even though we drew our line over the hatch so that we have a straighter line, the hatch is going to remain white, so you're just going to get your eraser and erase that part off. Step 2. We're going to want to use Cantor Blue, and we're going to go ahead and fill in those sections that we drew in with the pencil. Now, we want to make sure you do a nice even coat, but your brush strokes might still be visible like mine. So you're going to want to head and do a second coat. If your brush strokes are going this way and it's very visible, you're going to want to paint in the opposite direction to get rid of those brush strokes so it's not visible. Now, I did end up putting a stripe in the front because I thought it would look cool. And you know what? It totally does. Now where that little ledge is kind of going like this and it goes up and over, I just used that raised area to help guide me with the stripe. Now I didn't show it, but I did continue the stripe all the way underneath that Lascannon. To fill that area in with the blue, you want your brush to be completely flat on it, and then you're just gonna kind of wiggle it in there to fill in that area. Lastly, I also painted the exhaust armor blue as well as that little middle area. I didn't originally paint it blue, but it definitely needed it and it looks a lot better with it. Step 3, we're gonna use Iron Warriors to paint all the middle parts, and there is a lot. We're gonna start off with the tracks. Now this did end up taking me 2 coats, of course, so I originally just went vertical down the tracks and then horizontal so you wouldn't see any of those lines and you would have a nice even coat. Now on the side, where you can see all of the side of the tracks and it's obviously white, we want that to be metal. Now it's hard to get in there, so you just want to get your brush and just kind of tap it in there to get all of that area. You can always fix it up with white or blue, or you can just leave it for chips and scratches later. We're going to paint the dozer blade in Iron Warriors. You just want to make sure that you get all in there. We're gonna paint the vents on top of the Land Raider. Now with the vents, you're gonna want your brush to go with the motion of the vent so you can get into all those little creases and nooks and crannies, as well as those exhaust vents in the back. Just make sure you get into all those little holes. Now where those weapon mounting points are on the side, it will be visible once you put those Lascannons on there. So you're gonna make sure that you paint that in Iron Warriors too. And that I totally didn't forget to mention, we're going to want to paint the barrels on the Lascannon in Iron Warriors, just the barrel. So this is on the side of the Land Raider and on the front. Step 4, we're gonna use Balthazar Gold. I like to call it Balthazar Bronze. Now that top piece of the Lascannon, I'm just gonna call it a muzzle brake. I don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and paint that in Balthazar Gold, as well as those coils in Balthazar Gold as well. We're gonna use a slightly watered down Abaddon black, and we're gonna go ahead and paint the housing or the casing on the Lascannon. There's also this small little section right after the coils. I painted that in black as well. Now it's time to make it grim dark. To do this, we're gonna start off with newish. We want it to be 3 parts newish to 1 part our desired color. For our desired color, we're gonna do 2/3 Dryad Bark to 1/3 Troll Slayer Orange. Even though it looks like I did equal parts, I did end up adding just a little bit more Dryad Bark to the mix. We want to do this in sections. We don't want to do the whole thing at once. So in this section, you want to make sure that you just get into all of the nooks and crannies. You want it to be a semi-heavy coat, and it doesn't need to be a perfect coat. We're gonna go grab the makeup sponge, which is way better than a cotton round. This will leave a whole bunch of little hairs all over the mini, and this will not, and it'll be easier to clean this after. You're gonna grab your makeup sponge and you're just gonna go down on it, and you want to clean it up as much as possible while leaving some of those creases darker with that mixture. Now you're gonna wanna get a Q-tip and you want to clean it further to kind of make fit some of those lines and highlights. If my guardsmen end up rating us a 4 for makeup sponges, please take a picture and tag me on Vox Frequency, Instagram, or X. We're also going to want to do all of the tracks in this mixture as well. I just did a quick sweep going down the tracks as well as horizontal. If you want to make that bottom section of the side of the Land Raider darker, you can always get that mixture and do another layered coat along the bottom and wipe it away. We are going to use a pure white. Now I know this is a bold move, but it's gonna end up looking really good. We wanna have a slightly medium to a larger brush, and we wanna get off as much paint as possible using a paper towel. First, as you can see on my hand, there is barely any paint coming off. Now what we're gonna wanna do is we wanna stipple it in. Now if this was the edge, we wanna stay away from those edges, and we just want to stipple it in along that middle area, making it brighter and brighter towards the very middle. Now you can highlight the edges as well in white, but we really just want to focus on that white armor and building up the color in the middle. Now you can get more paint on your brush, but you don't want your brush to be heavy in paint, so just slightly wipe it off with the paper towel, just not excessively wipe it off with the paper towel, and stipple it in on those very middle sections to make it the brightest points on the armor. Now you're going to want to move over to a slightly smaller brush. We want to hit those hard to reach areas that we cannot get with a larger brush that we were using before. We're going to do the exact same thing. You're just going to stipple or just tap it in and build that color up towards the middle. Now you can do highlights along edges by simply just tapping it with the side of your brush. This is also a good time to do light battle damage. You want to water down your white paint just slightly until it's an ink-like substance. You're gonna do light scratches throughout the armor, and this is also a chance where you can do some paint chips along the blue. You can just tap it along the edges. You don't want it to be complete, but just tap and have some breaks. For highlights on the blue areas, we're going to use Caldor Sky. Now you're going to want to use that slightly medium to larger brush, and you want to just get off the excess paint off first with a paper towel. Now just like the white, we're just going to stipple it in, staying away from the edges. So if this is the edge, you're just going to stipple it in along the middle, making it brighter towards the middle. Now I did not do any edge highlighting with the Caldor Sky. Next, we're going to use Eshin Gray for paint chips and light scratches on the white armor. We're going to want to use the side of our brush, and we just want to hit pretty much all of the edges with the white armor. Now, it doesn't need to be perfect or needs to be complete. You just need to tap it in along those edges. Next, you want to move over to a smaller brush, a fine pointed one, and you want to water down the Eshin Gray slightly to an ink-like substance. That way it'll be easier for you to glide those scratches along the armor. Now you're going to want to focus on battle damage. I like to do along those bottom edges that we just tapped in to make it heavier. Now for those areas that we did earlier with the white paint to add light scratches in the middle, I went ahead and got the Eshin Gray, and if this is your white scratch, the Eshin Gray would just go right underneath it. For the hatch, we're going to go ahead and we just want to tap it in along those edges. Just tap, 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 tap. And then along the bottom where it has those hinges where it would open up, I just made it a little bit heavier in those areas. For rust stains on the armor, we're gonna do equal parts Rhinox hide and Troll Slayer orange. We're gonna mix that up, all good and done, and then we're gonna add water to it until it's almost like this wash-like substance like you see on the plate. Next, we're gonna go ahead and circle those little bolts, put a little line down it, and then you're just gonna press your finger against it, push on it, and pull down. And this is going to help add those natural kind of gradual rust stains on the armor. I also did this on some of those areas that we did with Eshin Gray for a little heavier battle damage like you would see on the hatch. As well as some of those scratches, I added some rust stains on there. Now where the armor plates meet, like you see on the top, I just kind of tapped it in along some of those edges. Now you're going to use Storm Hoe Silver or just any bright silver. You're going to use the side of your brush and you're going to tap it along all of the edges of the tracks. You want it to be fairly bright and have some strong scratches because later we're going to be adding pigment powder to make the appearance of dirt, and these are just going to really pop through that pigment powder. For the scratches, I like to have it heavier towards the ends of the tracks. So you want the scratch to almost look like it's coming from the sides of the tracks. This is also a good time to add some scratches along the blue armor. I just focus along some of the edges, just tapping it in and making some of those taps just a little bit heavier in some areas. I also just added a few light scratches throughout the middle of the blue armor as well. Now we're going to use Typhus Corrosion to add texture to the tracks and Dozer Blade. Make sure that you mix up that Typhus Corrosion pretty well because there's already some built-in sand and texture in that paint. You're going to get your brush and you're going to tap it along all of those tracks. I'm mostly focused along that middle area, and I also just put it on that Dozer Blade as well. Now just a quick note, your brush is always just going to go whenever you use it. So make sure that you get some soap and water and you wash that brush thoroughly to make sure you get all of that Typhus Corrosion out. Now to add the appearance of dirt, we're gonna use the Vallejo Burnt Umber Pigment Powder. You wanna add just a little bit of water until it becomes this thick, chalky substance. If it's too watery, it's gonna come out looking like paint. And that's what we don't want. So we want it to be very thick and chalky. You can always test it on the bottom of the Land Raider first. Now you're just gonna get your brush and you're just gonna tap it along the very bottom of the Land Raider, and where that little area is raised, I just put a little bit on there as well. Now for the tracks, I literally put it all over the tracks, and especially in that middle area, because that Typhus corrosion is going to add even more texture with that pigment powder, making it look like it's raised on those tracks, and this is going to give the appearance of dirt on the Land Raider. Some of you may be wondering how I survived the World Eaters. Well, I have been approved to declassify the time I joined an orc warband. The Imperium calls them orcs, but we all know they're just green ogrons. Or at least that's what it says in the official report. Stay tuned for Orktober, and remember, it's heresy not to like and subscribe to this video. And if you want even more content, check out my gaming channel at Nuka Kitten Gaming. Bye!